Your podcast is a powerful tool you can use right now to network and learn from people, but you must know how. No other type of content you create, no TikTok, no YouTube video, no social media content, or blogging gives you the perfect excuse to reach out to people you will love to learn from, be coached by, or connect with for future opportunities. But finding guests for your podcast goes beyond just sending an email or a DM. Inviting everybody and their abuela to be a guest on your show is the quickest way to confuse your audience and get nothing out of the experience. But don't worry, in this episode of Content Jefe, my guest, Krystal Proffitt, podcast and content coach, and also the producer of the Proffitt Podcast, is going to share with us some of the unconventional and creative ways she's used to landing big name guests for her podcast. Krystal also shares what criteria she uses to select her guests and her best tips and advice when it comes to inviting mentors and leaders in your industry to be guests on your podcast, even those who seem so far out of reach. This is a fun episode full of stories and strategies you can only learn when two podcast coaches get together. Remember to follow Content Jefe wherever you're listening. Are you ready, Jefe? Let's learn. Pod Sound School presents Content Jefe, the podcast that helps online business owners make better content and more money. Let's Jefe up. Krystal, I saw not too long ago on your social media that you interviewed Amy Porterfield, our queen. You interviewed
the queen.
The queen. And it's not the first time, right?
Mm-hmm. It was the fourth, actually.
It was the fourth time that she's been on your podcast. And I was just thinking I had to get Krystal on the podcast and ask her how did she make that happen, and also ask you questions about interviewing, guest acquisition, and all that. But let's start with Amy, because Amy,
yes.
I mean, for us content creators and online entrepreneurs who want to educate, mostly educators, like Amy is the person that you should be going to.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this in and of itself could be its own 2-hour episode in talking about it, but I'll basically sum it all up in I've always looked for strategic partnerships. And what I mean by that is not just, who can I align with that's going to make me a ton of money or get me a bunch of followers or whatever. I look at it from the perspective of the long game. What is the long game? Who do I want to align with that is going to continue to pay off in, 1,000 different ways in years to come? And Amy is one of those people, as well as Buzzsprout. I immediately am thinking about Buzzsprout, StreamYard, some of these different software. So when we talk about strategic partnerships, for everybody that's listening that wants to do interviews, don't just think about a person or one specific personal brand. Think about zoom out a little bit and say, who are the key players in my industry and how can I align with them?
Do you think that maybe going to an event and tried to meet that person face to face, or somebody from her team, is more effective than trying to reach somebody through DMs or maybe through email? Because I think that's one of the challenges that you face right now is, how do I reach out to people? So like you said, so I don't look needy, creepy, or like I want to exploit them or take advantage of them, or none of that negative stuff. It's just out of curiosity. I just want to have conversations with people. How would you recommend to go about that?
Yeah. I think the first thing, because when we came out of, we couldn't really travel, everything was virtual, to now it's a lot more there's things happening. I just got, 2 emails earlier. It's something's happening in Austin. This is happening in New Orleans. Things are popping, right? There's lots of things happening. So it could be easy to get swept up into, I need to go to all the things and network with all the people. And that can feel really overwhelming. And it's really constraining for someone that's listening. They're like, I don't have any money to travel. I don't have the budget to do that. I can't do it. And so what I would say is, zoom out. For anybody that's listening, like, what are the big things in your industry that happen every year? So for people in podcasting, podcast movement, Podfest, podcast movement evolutions, and maybe there's some local regional things that you can do to kind of get your name out there and network with people that could be aligned, like Veronica and I, like, we're peers in this space, and being able to network that way is really great. You start to figure out, like, who are the big players and who are the people that align with my values. And that's where I really start. So go to the events, look at the 2024 calendar, like what's out there, like, and just look over the next 12 months. What would make sense? And what is the one event? If you could only afford to go to one thing, what is what one event? And then once you figure that out, who are the people attending and how can you make the most out of it? Maybe it's you organizing your own meetup. So if somebody's listening and they're like, well, I'm going to this conference coming up and I know, let's say Rachel Rogers, you're obsessed with Rachel Rogers and she's going to be there. Well, could you facilitate some sort of happy hour with Rachel? Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Maybe it just all comes down to the connections that you have, but get creative. Like, don't stay in this bubble of like, I'm going to go to this event and I don't know anybody and I'm probably going to leave not knowing anybody and I'm going to be a wallflower. Like, it's not going to advance any of your content. It's not going to help you hit your goals. So just be more strategic in that way.
I love that because it's not only that, it's like the contribution. It's like when you get into a situation and you think like, how can I help? How can I make something better? How can I create a better experience for somebody? I think that that's the key to your answer. And that's the key to like slowly getting into somebody's network and inner circle. I love that. So no DMs or yes to DMs. What is your opinion? Like when you get a DM for somebody like out of the blue, this person doesn't even follow you, hasn't even commented on any of your posts, and out of the blue, they just reach out to you and they want to be on your podcast, or that's not, how do you receive that?
So I don't get as many DMs for my podcast as much as I get emails. If somebody's just getting started and you get excited about every single like interview opportunity, I think that's great, but you should also have some boundaries around it too, because just because you have a podcast, not everyone will be a great fit for your show. So treat it as such. I know it's exciting when you're like, oh my God, I got my first email. Somebody wants to be on my podcast. That's great. I think it's fantastic. But also there are self-serving people out there that are just trying to get on your podcast to promote themselves. And we don't want those people. We want to send them to the graveyard with the emails. Like, no, it's not going to happen. Like, no, you're not coming onto my podcast. So whenever somebody immediately makes, there's like kind of three things: a personal connection with something I've created, how I've helped them, or a very specific piece of content, not like, oh, I listened to your latest episode. And you could tell it was like, like brackets of like insert memorable story here. It's like, that's Chat GPT. Yes, exactly. Like, give me a summary of what this podcast is kind of about. No, that's going in the trash. But they do have to make like some sort of personal, like, I know that they're paying attention, then that's going to get my attention. The second thing is adding value to my audience. That will get my attention so fast because it's not about me. It's not about me. It's not about the guest. It is about the value that you can add to my listeners. And if you can't demonstrate very quickly that you have something of value to my audience, then it's not worth my time because that's all that I care about. So I will get so many emails of people saying, I have a bajillion-dollar business and I'm a New York Times this and that, and I'm on Fortune. And I'm like, I don't care. I really don't. You're probably a cool person, but unless you can demonstrate the value you're going to add to my audience, not sorry. I don't care about it. But the other thing that's going to get me to pay attention, the third thing, is a personal connection. And these are the ones that I pay attention to. And this is if Veronica, she sends me an email and she's like, hey, I want to introduce you to Studio Steve. Like, we're going to have studio, like he could add so much value. He could talk about editing and all these incredible things. Like, what do you think? I'm immediately gonna be like, oh, I love Veronica. Like, yes. Like, I already know, like, she's my people, and she's like, we're aligned. She's not gonna send me somebody that's gonna be a waste of my time. She knows what my values are. She knows what my principles are. And we're totally jiving. It's an immediate yes. I don't even have to go look at who Studio Steve is or what he does. I'm just immediately like, absolutely, I want this person. Veronica has already like pre-vetted it for me. I'm an immediate yes. For anybody that's listening, I know this can sound a little overwhelming. You're like, yeah, Krystal, but I don't have a network. I don't have a lot of people. But if you're not putting yourself out there in Facebook groups or on Instagram, like on TikTok, like wherever your platform is, where you're trying to grow an audience, start making those asks, like get connected and say, hey, I love this community so much here. Like send me your people that you want me to interview. And that is another great way that you can at least get the ball rolling to start networking more in your industry.
And like you said, it's not about me. It's about the audience, and some of them are so random that they don't even. I'm like, no, my audience is not a match for what you're looking for.
And I think that helps. Like if you just kind of use that as like your minimum filter that you go through for anybody that's listening, and you're getting these random emails, and you're like, well, I mean, look, they're accomplished. Maybe they could have some value, or they have this, but look for that underlying thread. Like, what can they add to your audience? Because, I mean, there's so many people that I would have loved to have interviewed that have said, oh, like I do this and I do that. And I'm like, yeah, but sorry, it doesn't relate to my topic and what we talk about. Maybe that's an Instagram live conversation, or maybe that's, you could take the conversation to a different platform. But when it comes to the podcast specifically, or even what's on my YouTube channel, it's very much centered around podcasting and content creation. So if it doesn't fall under that umbrella, then it's just maybe it's a different opportunity for collaboration, but it doesn't fit within like that scope.
I think it's because at the beginning, we want to interview people, like you said, and also we have this misconception that if we have somebody on our podcast, or if we collaborate with somebody who has maybe like better numbers, more subscribers, maybe they're a celebrity or somebody well-known in the industry, that somehow that's gonna help us grow, and that is not always the case. In fact, I would say like it's never the case.
We get excited about big celebrities or someone that has 2.5 million followers that they're going to be on your show. Here's some tough love, everybody. They're probably not going to share it on their social media or their email list or wherever it is. Like, they're there to fulfill the purpose of hitting either PR numbers to get out to so many people, or it's self-serving, but it's also they're adding value, but they're not going to promote what they did on your show because they probably did 1,000 other interviews too. And it doesn't make sense to keep sharing them and doing that. So it really just goes back to strategic alignment and making sure that the people that are going to be on your show, on your YouTube channel, whatever content you're creating, just make sure that they add value, even if they're a celebrity. You want them. And then here's the marketing for you, because I love adding a little marketing tip here. Now what you can do is you can use that as credibility. Now Chef Amanda can say, hey, I've had Tiffany Amber Thiessen on my podcast. And I can say, hey, I've had Amy Porterfield on my podcast 4 times. That's an instant credibility booster if it's relevant to your audience. And so you can use that as leverage in other ways in your marketing or your strategy. But the bottom line is, don't get so excited that people are just going to share and they're going to tell everybody about it, because sometimes what happens is calendars don't align and somebody's promoting their own thing and they can't go back and promote the interview that just so happened to land on that same date. So just don't get all bent out of shape about it. It's nothing personal. It's just that's how it falls sometimes.
I love that. And I love this idea of strategic partnerships, and how, like you said, like if you step back and you think, okay, I want to have this person. I know that this person probably is not going to share my content, but I want to keep their relationship going. Yeah. And I also want to build my authority, because that's something that having somebody an authority in your industry, on your platform, that's what it does. So that's a very, very good point. When it comes to, let's say that you scheduled your interview, you're super nervous. Then how do you prepare for your interview? How do you make sure that you get into the interview feeling confident and feeling prepared for it? Because I feel like when I prepare for an interview, I either spend way too long or not enough time. So how do you prepare for your interviews?
This is a really good question. And I think it's going to be a little bit nuanced because it's going to be different for everybody. I interviewed someone on my show and we talked about interviews and he was like, I do 15 hours before. And I was like, oh my God, no. This is like, and he was like, I listen to everything that they do and I do that. And he like went down this rabbit hole that I was just not prepared to go down. I was like, okay, so that's intense. If I'm interviewing someone, for example, that has a podcast or they have a YouTube channel or they have an Instagram website, whatever, I'm going to pick one of those things and kind of go down a rabbit hole, but I go through like everything with the lens of what's important to my audience. So not what's important to me. What am I curious about? And it does kind of help to have that a little bit in the mix. But at the end of the day, again, it goes back to the audience is like, okay, if my audience is listening to this conversation, I want to be able to pull up relevant things. So for example, we were chatting before we started recording about the last time you and I spoke was when y'all first moved into your new house and y'all are like, we didn't even have a studio set up. Like it was a whole thing. But whenever I was talking to y'all, I remember thinking like, okay, I want to get into the nitty gritty of, podcasting and YouTube and how y'all have grown your channel and your brand over time. And that was all just out of my own curiosity mixed with what I knew my audience was curious about. So I would just recommend to anybody, how can you blend those two things together? Because I think that is what makes the best interviews. That's what I would do is just look at it as how can I make it to where I'm looking at it from my audience's perspective, but also throw in some stuff that you want to know. Because when you have experts on your show, like I absolutely am self-serving. I'm like, can I pick your brain about this? Like, cause I want to know about it too.
Yeah. And also your time is limited. It's not like you have the whole afternoon. You have 45 minutes to an hour. So you have to like keep it narrow, keep it to one topic. That's why when I was thinking about your interview, I'm like, I can ask her about entrepreneurship. I can ask her about being a mom and running a business from home. I can ask her about, all sorts of things about podcasting, that there are just so many things to talk about when it comes to that. I can ask you questions about content creation, being a content creator and marketing. I mean, so many different topics that we can cover, but the time is limited. And if you just narrow it down to one thing or two, and maybe those are the things that you want to learn about too.
Well, and I think it's fun. Like if you think about it in that way, because, you just listed, that's like 7 hours worth of content, right? That we could create. But what I like to think about is that could be follow-up episodes. So like, don't get overwhelmed with like, oh, we only have like a finite amount of time. Like try to make that lasting impact and try to make it to where everybody really enjoys it, and then have them come back on the show or find other opportunities to where, like now I was just thinking, I was like, well, Veronica needs to come back on the Proffitt Podcast so we can have another conversation. So we'll just keep pitching and catching and like going back and forth on each other's shows. And it's so much fun.
It is. Yeah, it is. It is super fun. I absolutely love that. And I just have to ask you about podcasting. I feel like there's just, maybe it's just me, or maybe is, once again, that's why I love to have you here, because it feels like things are slowing down a little bit. It feels like there was like this explosion like after 2020. And podcasting was something that it was talked about, and you could, I bet you get the emails from Pat News too. So there was just like new things and new acquisitions and new companies getting into podcasting. And all of a sudden that is just like, it's been dying down, and you're hearing less and less Like, what is your opinion about where we are right now as an industry and where we're heading to?
I feel like it's another evolution, right? Like we are at I would say almost the tipping point of now when you ask people about a podcast, it's like, oh, I was listening to this podcast. You're like, oh yeah, what app are you on? They're like, YouTube. Like, wait, hang on. Or for the purists out there that are like, no, podcasts are audio only. You can only listen on your phone when you're in your car, like whatever. Like there's
the
so
RSS.
many opinions. Oh my God, there's so many opinions about all the things. But in reality, I mean, you could watch a quote podcast on Instagram if it's a clip of a podcast, or you could watch something on TikTok. So I've kind of gotten away from the idea of what a podcast necessarily is, because at the end of the day, all I really care about is where are the listeners or watchers, right? Where is the audience showing up? And where is the money coming from? So I think that it's just evolving. What we've previously have seen with host-read ads and audio-only podcast, that may be the way of the dinosaur in the future. But for now, I think that for me personally, I'm sitting back and watching. And the one thing that I'll caution everybody is I want you to use AI, but I also want you to bring the humanity into it, people, because what I'm finding in all these groups that I'm a part of, they're like, oh, I use ChatGPT to write all my scripts. And I'm like, I can't. The amount of ChatGPT experts that are now in my feed, there's like, buy my course on ChatGPT. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this. But what I will say that will become, I think it's always been the most important part of podcasting, but it will continue to be that, is storytelling and real connections. Because ChatGPT, maybe it'll do this in the future, but for now, it can't tell you about the story of me meeting Amy Porterfield for the first time and buying this $20 shirt that I hired this woman in my neighborhood to do. Like, it's not going to do that. And those are real human connections. I'm not listening for, okay, step number 1 to creating a podcast is this. And there's no inflection and people are just reading something that ChatGPT, I don't care about any of that. That's not going to work. Everybody listening, it's not going to work. So while I think it's great, absolutely leverage AI. I think it's fantastic. It's incredible. It's sped up the process for so many people that want to create, but don't rely on it 100% to do the creative part for you, because your content's never going to go anywhere. No, it's just going to sound like everybody else using ChatGPT for everything. So infuse your personality, find those pieces that will help you stand out. And I think that's what we're going to continue to see over the next 12 to 24 months. So infuse your personality, give lots of stories, and make those strategic partnerships that could potentially be sponsors for your podcast in the future too.
So you think that where we're heading to, it's more like something that it's merging into like video and audio, or what do you think? Because I think that's what I'm seeing, and that's one of the things that we talk to with our clients and our students, is that audio only, unfortunately, as a podcast coach, you have to like break the news to them and let them know it's hard. It's hard to grow an audience. It's hard to be visible. So you have to combine your audio content with some other kind of content, visual content.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. I think it's one of those that it's so hard to leverage just audio, like just audio without a website, without Instagram, without something else. It feels nearly impossible, if I'm being honest. If you are just putting stuff in an RSS feed and you don't have it going anywhere else, like your distribution is just unfortunately so limited, because podcast discoverability sucks. It's always sucked, and it still sucks. Like I think back in the day,
I love that. I love that you're saying that.
Yes, because you used to be able to, if you could like cross your fingers across your toes and get on Apple charts, like you had a chance to get some visibility. But even that doesn't work these days. So I think that it's really naive to believe that you can only do audio only these days. Now, I do think that blogs are still underestimated as a piece of the puzzle. So if someone's like, I really don't want to do video, that's okay. Veronica and we're going to shove you in that direction. Eventually you'll get there, but have some blog posts, use ChatGPT. That's where ChatGPT can come in and help you like zhuzh things up and make them spicier and sound better, but having something where you can tell people, this is where you can learn more about me, because, for me specifically, I work with so many online business owners. So their podcast isn't just about, this is a hobby for me, I'm just putting it out there. They have other goals on the back end. They want to grow their email list. They want to get clients. They want to get customers. They want to sell things. And so you can't do that through an audio only medium. You got to have email list access. You need to get people to a website so you can do other things that drive towards your business goals. But at the end of the day, I totally agree with you. Like, turn on that camera. To everybody, ladies and gentlemen, everybody listening, turn that camera. We know it's painful. Veronica and I have been there. We know it's awkward, especially when you're by yourself and you're not doing interviews and you don't have anybody to lead. Like right now, Veronica and I are laughing. We're having fun, but we know how awkward it is when it's just solo content. It's a camera and a microphone, and you're like, is this thing on? It's like, hang on, how do I start? What do I say? We know, and that's why we're coaches. We know the things that you struggle with, okay? We see you. We know that you're struggling with this. Because that's the thing, is we've been there. But that's what I just go back to, is like that the video aspect really just plays so much into it. And it's because you're leveraging YouTube, you're leveraging Google, you're really just having that reach that unfortunately podcasts alone, audio only shows don't have. So leverage it all. Don't have to be all in the places, okay? You don't have to be everywhere and do all the TikToks and all the things. If you're not comfortable with that, if it's just you're a solo person, you don't have the ability to do it. But I do think that video is going to continue to play a key role. And I want everybody to think about this real fast. Anybody that's listening and you're just like, oh, I don't want to do video. I'm not going to do video. Like, you have this idea right now in your head. I want you to think about that podcast that you only listen to for audio forever. You only listen to the audio version. You only listen to it. It was just audio. It's just audio. It's just audio. But then you saw a clip of their podcast on Instagram and you were like, oh, that's what they look like. Oh my, look at her office. That is so cute. She has a dog in the background. Like, and then now when you listen to their podcast, you're cleaning your house, you're picking up the kids' shoes and all the laundry. You can imagine them sitting in that studio and you're like, I know what that environment is and I understand it because you can see it. So that is the power of video. It's not about you looking perfect. Hell, I've done videos where I don't have any makeup on. And people in the comments are like, you look like a hot mess. I'm like, thank you. Thank you so much for coming. We could have a whole, that's another 2-hour conversation about jerks in the comments.
The trolls.
Yes. That's a different conversation, but it's just so powerful. So yeah, I do agree. Video is fantastic.
Yeah. I love that. And so if there are people listening or watching and they're looking for somebody to teach them how to podcast, to show them the way of how to get into content marketing through podcasting, what are the things that you would advise them to look for or to do?
I would say don't look for someone that's always been about just the numbers. Because I don't know about you, Veronica, but I mean, we've both been in this industry long enough now to know that just because you get millions and millions of downloads doesn't always mean that you have this specific thing. And what I mean by that is the thing could be money on the back end. It could mean brand deals. It could mean a network of people. It could mean customers that actually support you. I mean, I've seen so many people over the last few years that used to have really big shows and they were canceled for numerous reasons, but they were solely focused on the downloads. I don't think that they had a long-term strategy. They were just like, well, what's the next viral thing? What's the hot thing that I can talk about? And whenever I look at content, I look at it from a longevity perspective of like, well, what can we do? I mean, it's conversations like this. It's like, what do we see in the next 12, 24 months? Where's podcasting going? And so I think that for someone looking for someone to lead them and teach them and kind of show them the ways, I think that you have to look for someone that's going to teach based on what your strengths are or what you want to focus on. So great example. We already talked about this earlier. Veronica has Studio Steve, who knows all the things of technical pieces and things. He's going to listen to this and he's just going to crack up. But I'm just like, the nuances of the tech and the recording, like I pay for higher end recording. So I don't, or, you know, like my technology so that I don't have to manually do so many of those things. So I tell people when they come to my community, I'm like, I don't worry about the editing. I invest in, like, you go hire Studio Steve. He'll help you with your editing. But at the end of the day, I'm not the person to teach you about the tech. I keep it super high level. I'm more about the content. I want to talk about the marketing. I want to talk about the strategic things that I'm doing. Whereas, you know, Pod Sound School is totally different. It's a different vibe. It's a different approach. And I think that there's room for all of us, and you have to take different pieces. It's kind of like, you know, Amy Porterfield, we've talked about her a few times. She doesn't teach everything about everything. She's so specific about what she teaches in digital courses, which is great, but that's only a piece of running an online business. And so you have to look for other mentors that can maybe teach you more about funnels or more about, you know, whatever else that you're launching. But I think like find something of exactly what you're looking for and be cautious too. I can't tell you enough. Like that, like I said, there's just been so many people that are rags to riches stories. And it's like, hang on, if it sounds too good to be true, it's likely too good to be true. So just beware, like proceed with caution. I'll say that.
Yeah, definitely. So this may make it into the episode or not, but the way that you got into my heart was because I was scrolling through Instagram a few years ago and I saw this video of you rapping to, I think, was it Friends? And I've been scrolling, like that was my preparation for this interview. I'm like, I'm going to find it. I'm going to find it. But I kept scrolling and I ran out of time.
Yeah.
Where's that video? I want that video.
Okay. So for context, this is so funny. That totally caught me off guard. So very good. Very good. So I have an alter ego. Okay. Her name is Krystal. Okay. Her name is Krystal. Don't worry. There's no real time rapping about to happen. I'm not going to beatbox, do any of that. But what happened was this, and it's funny because like this video, I feel like everything should just be sponsored by Amy Porterfield at this point because it does relate back to her. We were doing a launch for Digital Course Academy. And I think it was my very first launch. And they put out something like they do contests behind the scenes for affiliates. It's like, oh, if you do this, then, you know, you get this prize or something like that. And one of them was the most creative ad. So that's what it was. I put a theme because it was around the Halloween or something. And I dressed up in this like 90s apparel and I did a full-blown rap. This goes back to being memorable. I have you're gonna die when I tell you this. I have a Google Sheet somewhere in my Google Drive that is nothing but raps about
oh my God.
the online space.
What? And why are those not published?
There's not enough time of the day, Veronica. I'll send you some of my raps. Maybe that's what I'll do. Be like, are these good enough? Because that's what it is. Okay, we talk about imposter syndrome. That's what it is. It's like, these aren't good enough. I need to just keep these inside. But I think I have two. I have one about email marketing. I have one about, like, I just went through this whole rabbit hole. I'm so red right now. Everybody's just listening to the podcast. I'm so red because I'm dying. Yeah,
I love that. I love
so
that side of you. I love you. I love it. And I love you. Thank you so much.
Special place.
Yes, always. Thank you so much for your time, for being here. What do you have anything coming up that my audience would like to learn about? Any new launches, any new programs, any new products, services, anything?
So let me just tell you a little bit about my plans for 2024, because what I'm looking at and what I encourage everybody to look at is watch what people are doing. And I think that this, like, not people in your industry, watch what consumers are doing. Like, what is your audience doing? Because this is what I have been really paying attention to, because I think everybody's been on this hamster wheel of like, you just got to create, you got to do the next thing, you got to create the course, you got to do the service, like you got to do the membership, coaching, like all these things. And everybody's kind of just in this assembly line of doing things. And I've been kind of taking a step back and saying, but what do my people really want? What do they really want? Or what do they really need that's not in the marketplace that I can offer to them? So stay tuned. There's some fun things that are behind the scenes, like coming up in the next year, hopefully that'll be happening. That I'm like, and ChatGPT is involved, so I will throw that out there. So it's like, we're good, we're besties. But I think it's just one of those things that's like, just stay in touch with your audience. They're the only ones that matter. Like everybody listening to this, you're in Veronica's audience. You're the only thing that matters. You're the only thing that matters. And so don't lose sight of that. Like your audience is so key. You need them to show up. You need them to listen to you. And don't forget about them. I've just found this so frequently recently. Everyone's forgetting about who their audience is, what they need. So don't forget about your audience. Come hang out with me. I'm at Krystal Proffitt, TX. Proffitt is my real last name. We didn't get into that either. That's a conversation for, I'll have to come back and tell you all the other stories. But yeah, hang out with me on Instagram. You can check out the Proffitt Podcast as well as my YouTube channel. It's just under Krystal Proffitt. And I would love to hang out with you. And let's nerd out about podcasting.
Yes,
it's so much fun.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Thank you, Krystal.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. You can find the link to Krystal's social media in the description of this episode. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe or follow button. Also, if this episode inspired you to start your podcast, we'll love to help you. Go to podsoundschool.com for more information. I'll catch you in the next episode. Nos vemos. Ciao.